Hey guys, how's it going? Hope everyone had a great Wednesday. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. So I can see we got a lot of great people here today. Tone is back. Missed you, buddy. So that's really cool to see Tone. Steve, good to see you. And we have Willie and Wendy and Brad. And so thank you so much, everybody. Wendy, I know you're not in Houston, you're in Dallas, but that hurricane is scary, am I right? That is probably something that I definitely wouldn't want to deal with. So please be careful, okay? That's so important. Very important to be careful and make sure you're okay. I think I'm going to turn off the fan because I think I'll be okay. It's getting kind of cooler out, which is nice. Let me a great Wednesday. Thank you so much. So we had that little delay going. We're going to fix this. Let's lower the light a little bit. Let's see how it looks. So we will be painting Salma Hayek, which is going to be a lot of fun. She's a great model. So I drawn and painted her several times over the years. Oh, it's raining. Okay, but most will miss. Thank goodness. Oh, okay. So be careful with that migraine. Don't let it get too bad. Make sure you take your meds and everything, Wendy. Okay? So I'm going to put my glove on. So this is, of course, part one, which is always very interesting. So today, like Steve at his live stream, he has a really good IPA beer he does. And I just do whatever I find. This is just regular green tea with lime in it. So I'm going to drink that with you guys. And let's see. So right now you see I have my image drawn of Salma Hayek. And you can see it's just the essence of what you need, and not going too far as detail and everything like that. So we're just going to come in with the white. And remember, I always like to come in with the white in the beginning, because what it does for me, I feel like it's sort of like one of those relief sculptures where it comes forward a little bit. And I like that. So that's what I'm after. And what I use is Drew Blair's 50/50 illustration white from his illustration line. And I feel that is very good to put down the initial white. And then after that, it's very erasable. And I can actually erase some of the midtones. But what it does, it brings her face forward, which I like. I'm not sure whether I'm going to be using Frisket or not. There are a lot of different things, but what I'm going to do as far as the game plan is, Raul, how's it going? John, good to see you. So glad you guys can make it. So what I'm doing is I'm going to decide, how I'm going to go about, the sequential detail. But the main thing is I want to work on the detail of the face, because I don't care any kind of overspray that the face causes on the other areas, because everything else is much darker than that, So good to see you guys. So I'm going to take, now this is my new favorite airbrush for doing backgrounds and large areas like the white, is the Vega 1000. This is Thayer and Chandler, which now is a Badger company. And I really love a lot of things about this airbrush. And one of the things I love about it, and let me show you, I'm just going to open this up and show you one of the many things that I love about this airbrush, is that if we, open this here, you'll see that, let me just pull out the needle. I don't want to damage anything. That's bad. Needles can be damaged very easily. I'm just going to pull out this beautiful needle. And it doesn't have a little baby nozzle, right? It doesn't have one of those teeny tiny nozzles it has this cone, and you can see the surface area, and the opening is much larger, and it seems like there's a lot less room for things to get clogged, and I really feel that's the case. You know, hey Andrew, good to see you. This is Andrew's first time, guys. So I'm so glad he just ordered the Airbrush India ink. So welcome, Andrew. It's good to see you. And yes, Steve, we do have a great group here. Brad, always good to see you. So, so with this, you have more area and less opportunity for this to get clogged. I really feel that any airbrush with this kind of, and you see how it just sits, it doesn't screw in. I feel this is the best design in airbrushes for me, because this is what I have most luck with and less problems. So that's why I really like this particular airbrush. It's the Vega. It came out in like '92, and it's really great. One of the other things I like about it, if you notice that the little thing, like the trigger spring there, or whatever that's called, it's connected. So, you know, you don't have to go ahead and put that in. So that makes a big difference, especially when you're taking apart and putting back together the airbrushes. Another thing is there's a spring inside here, and I actually cut off one of the rings of the spring, and it gives me a little less pressure pulling back, which is really good, you know. So that's just my little take on the Sony Vega, why I love it, and why it's really fantastic for backgrounds, because it has a 0.3 needle nozzle combination, which I love. You can also get a 0.5, I believe, so that's exciting. We'll put that back in. And honestly, I really love this red backing. I think that's really cool. So that's my take on the Thayer and Chandler Vega 1000, and why we're going to use that for the white. And yeah, you know, it does, and it looks like a pache, Willie, and also it looks like a little bit like a Harder and Steenbeck too, doesn't it, Willie? So yeah, I do. Oh, how many you broke? Oh boy, needles. Yeah, that's for sure. Me too. Don't feel bad, Andrew. That's for sure. Yeah, the self-centering nozzles like that, Andrew, very astute, very important. And thank you, Tone, for sharing that. I appreciate that. And so you see, I fired up my Vega 1000, and you can hear the compressor, which is reacting. I must have had like just one little second, one little bit of air before it turned on. Okay, this should be enough. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn her over, and I'm just going to do a little test and just make sure that everything is working correctly. And you see how tightly detailed I can get, which is really nice, you know, really good. And it does look like the Harder and Steenbeck and the SATA, right? SATA, very similar to the SATA airbrush with the Thayer and Chandler, you know. And of course I have my little MAC valve here. When you have something like this, doesn't have a MAC valve, always get an external MAC valve with it. Believe me, it will make your life so much better, you know. The Vega 2000 is great too. I got to get one of them, especially when I plan on working larger, you know. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to use my freehand shield because her nose comes out a little bit from the cheek. It comes forward, and I'm just going to go ahead. Remember, perpendicular, not parallel, guys. 1 second rule is always in effect. That 1 second rule. Remember, when you're doing this, you have to wait a second because when you spray the white, it doesn't show up right away. It takes like a second because the white paint wets the surface, making it darker for a second, and then it shows up when it dries. Yes, the infinity, exactly. That was the first thing I thought as well, Andrew. And the pache, too, like Willie said. See that? I'm just slowly building up her nose, her cute nose. So this is Salma Hayek, as you probably already gathered. And so we are going to be doing this. It usually goes maybe 1 to 5, 1 to 6. I think the last one went to 6. Am I correct? No, 5. Right? I think it only went to part 5. So you see, her nose is coming forward, so we have to make sure. And it's so important that we went ahead and did that freehand shield, you know? Oh, the inline veil. Now, what exactly is that, my friend? And let's see. I'm going to use my freehand shield because see how beautiful that nostril is? It's a really beautiful hard edge. So my job, our job, is to maintain those beautiful edges. So we're going to crawl along the surface. We're going to do perpendicular and not parallel. I'm going to make sure, always got to make sure that when you're spraying that paint isn't coming out automatically. Okay, good. We are in good shape. So that's oh, the Mac valve. Yeah, definitely. I love the Mac valves. It just brings your airbrush to life, and it just really makes our lives so much easier. Remember, we have to make sure that we are letting that paint catch up to the surface, because like I said, we're not going to see it until after it's dry. So it looks like nothing's there, but in reality it is there. So you see, I'm just going to go ever so light. There we go. And we definitely will calm that down. And so right now I'm just going to shake the light a little bit here. There we go. And then what we're going to do is now we're going to do the softer lights. And how we do the softer lights, you know, over, hey Bill, how's it going? How's everything, sir? And what we're going to do is we are just going to be at a good distance. I'm about 4 inches away from the subject, or away from the paper. And you see, when I'm far away, it's much more subtle. And like I said, I could erase the white, and I will, where I need to. Freehand shield always. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure there's a crease there that's underneath the her eyelid there. So we want that crease because you know, we'll make it more subtle later down the line. But as you see, we're just bringing her face further up, you know. Oh, don't worry about that, Bill. You accomplished a lot, so just make sure you give yourself time to rest, because that's crucial. That's actually part of the equation, is to get enough rest. We want to be effective, you know, and I'm the same way. I tend to do too much and then I kind of burn out. So, Steve, drinking's always acceptable, my friends. That's for sure. And so right here, we are going to just, I want to indicate with the pencil this little line there. Now, that's really harsh, but we have to get it subtle. And what I'm going to do is we are going to be good distance away. And I'm going to erase that pencil line. But what I have to do is I have to establish a little bit, just like that. And then, like I said, we establish and then we deal with the subtlety down the line, you know? And let's see here. Okay. Yes, the Createx illustration white, the 50/50 white, which is very important because there's another white that doesn't work as well. So you definitely want that 50/50 white, which works, you know, with this technique. And let's go ahead and we'll wait for that to dry because we want to make sure that we don't damage the paper, because if it's wet and then you erase, you're going to damage the paper. That's a very important thing to remember, extremely important. And I can just be ever so gentle with that. And you see how that nose already comes forward? We didn't do anything else. So that's really important, you know? It's so important. Yes, the 50/50 white, exactly. And let's see. Yes, definitely you have to get some. And what you want to do is you want to dilute it 50/50 with the 4012 reducer also by Createx. Now, if you can't get the 4012, then I believe the 4011 is the new one. Is that correct, guys? What's replacing the 4012? The 4012. A little more intense over here. So remember, if you have a, hey Cheryl, how's it going all the way from Canada? So good to see you. So what we have to do is we have to realize that we're painting light, and whatever is facing light most direct is going to get the most light. And as each form turns away from the light, it starts to go darker. And it's a very slow process, sometimes really fast. However, what you have to do is you have to be visualizing, not just copying values, because that will come short. You want to be an inkjet printer and a poet at the same time. So that's a tall order, but I think that's important. So think about that. An inkjet printer and a poet at the same time. So you wanna copy the values, but you want to be touched by the beauty of how the light is interacting with the forms. And then last but not least, you want to be touched by your subject. But you can't be touched by the subject if you don't get those other two things correct. So remember, being touched by your subject is one thing, but you really have to get that technical stuff down. So right now, we're going to paint the light where it is most intense, or what part of Salma is facing the light most directly, Oh, that's funny, Cheryl. Yes, exactly. So, Cheryl is holding up this wonderful photo of her, and I believe it was a salmon, right? It was huge, and everyone was like, "Oh, that's so cool!" Canadians, you guys are great fishermen and outdoors people, and I wrote, New Yorkers will say, "Hey, where'd you buy that fish?" Well, 4012 and 4013. 4012 is the old one, And I'm not equipped, but if anyone out there know the difference between 4012 and 4013, that would be cool. But I'm not versed in that, my friend. And so let's go ahead and work on her chin here. Ever so soft. So pretty soon we're going to have the new designs. We're not going to be having these. We are going to be using these wonderful plastic bottles that have a little dropping mechanism in there, not a dropper. Just much better. So that's going to be the new designs coming up. So that's pretty cool. It was a pike. Oh, wow. Look at that. A walleye, is that what you guys call it? I know Brad talks about them. He's in Canada. So so there you go, and as you can see, we are just slowly. Now as the white gets less intense, what I'm going to do is increase my distance. And I don't have to worry about detail because it's a large area, so you can increase your distance rather drastically. And I'm just pumping that trigger, keeping the air on. So did anybody get that article, that magazine that I was in with Airbrush Step by Step? The cool thing is it has a really great step-by-step. I think it's like something like 25 steps of this technique, and the painting is of Soraya, and it's real. And that painting is only available. I never posted it, so if you get a chance, check it out. It's really cool. Oh, this okay. Salmon back in 2000. That's cool. Thanks, Andrew. So you do like the inks. Okay, great. Thank you. And you have any questions, let me know. So thank you, Andrew, for trying it out. It means a lot to me when you guys try out my inks, definitely. Just a little bit here, just to show the neck. And as you can see, I'm also going to get a little bold here. And I'm just going to put in a little bit of the white of the eyes. Only because see, before, when I didn't have the Vega 2000, the Vega 1000, I wouldn't do that. But there's so much control with this, why the heck not, right guys? And so we went ahead and put that in. I'm going to leave the highlight alone. I like doing that with the white pastel, but what I can do is I'm going to have some good distance. And I'm just going to hint at the white of her eye there. And hey Mike, how's it going? 4013 has alcohol of some kind. Very cool. Okay, that's great information to have. How you doing there, Mike? Okay, now we do have some white in her lips. That's a tricky part. And so I know, yes, so Brad ordered it, which is pretty cool, so that's exciting. Oh, out west they have monster fish, very cool. Here in Jersey, in the rivers, we have these huge catfish, and carp. Lots of carp here in the river. I live a stone's throw from the Hackensack River, but I can't go fishing there. It's kind of like no access at that point. But as a kid, I used to go fishing in the Hackensack River all the time. You know, as a kid, you would fish where you weren't supposed to. You just hopped the fence, right? Who out here has done that? You know, just hopped the fence and fished and get chased by the water cops. We used to do that all the time, all the time. There we go. And we're gonna calm that down a lot. And what we're gonna do after this, and so Cheryl says, soon we'll partake in some of your supplies. Oh wow, that would be wonderful. Yes, Cheryl, we'll talk about that online. And so thank you so much. And Yes, so let me know you have any questions. We'll cater to your needs, and that's important in your time frame. So when you study with me, it's not like, you better be here at, a certain time. I work around you because I know how important it is to grow as an artist, but also you have life going on, and I would never stress out my students. So Andrew says he used to mix in the cup and play by ear. Oh wow, thank you. Yes, it's true. And that's why I did it because, I hated that whole thing of not knowing how did I get that mixture the last time. This time when you open the light mixture, you know what you're gonna get always. So that's really good. And I'm just gonna smooth this out a little bit here. So you see a very interesting chain of events here, how the white is actually coming forward. And okay, so in her lips, there are a little area. Hey, what's up, Kevin? Kevin's loving the inks too. Wow, thank you so much. And see, we got Kevin and Andrew, and it's so great that the inks are taking off. Steve's using them, and Brad and Mike, and it's so Wendy. It's so fantastic that the inks are helping artists to have more control, and that's why I created them for myself, and decided just to share them. Now, as far as the inks with control, that basically is something that I use all the time. I use it and I get better. And the great thing, like playing chess, the more that you use the inks, the deeper you can go. It's not like you can just you can just go ahead and get the technique and you're down. No, you can keep growing and go as deep as you want, like chess, which is really fantastic. So not much fish out by Andrew, he says, in the desert. Yes, you're in Vegas. I remember sending the inks to Vegas. Plenty of snakes and lizards. Wow. Yeah, but you got Vegas. You have all those lights, and that's amazing. One of these days I'll get to Vegas there, Andrew. One of these days. So, we have the pencil, right? So don't try and, we can't be a cowboy and try and get it the first time, right? We have to use the pencil erase and everything. Use everything at your disposal to get the best job. So I'm going ahead, and her lips are much lighter than what's around her, and I'm just going to lighten up those lips. So a little bit here, a little bit on this side, and then there's an intensity over here on this side of the lips. There we go. Get that intensity of Salma's lips. And we're just taking our time. There's no rush whatsoever, right? And hey, Chris, how's it going? Did you get my email about your shipment of your Extreme Patriot Arrow? Because I did hear from Badger, and they said they're waiting on parts, so that's good. Tone says he's getting back into playing chess. Very cool. I'm not sure how much it helps the painting directly, but it's good to get that mindset of strategy, having a game plan before you start. And I think that's important. So yeah, I play about three times a day, online, and that helps a lot for me, just to get my mind off of stuff, get my mind off of thinking too hard and too long. There we go. And like I said, it might look a little crazy right now. Take heart. We're going to work it out, especially her lips area, but don't worry, we'll bring it together. So Wendy loves Vegas. So is it true, Andrew, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas? So it's always good to see Chris. And let's see. Okay, so we're just like I said, we're just going to soften things up a little bit. We don't want things to be too harsh. Nah, not at all. Oh, you play on the app? Oh, on the phone. Very cool, Tone. What is it? Is it chess.com? Because that's what I use. Just going to get rid of some of these pencil lines. So as you can see with the drawing, I take a lot of time with the drawing, and it's very important. No matter how you do it, whether you transform from a computer program, not a filter, but you transform from a computer program, you use a projector or Saral paper. Take your time. Make sure that your decisions are ones that you can live with for the rest of your painting, because you're going to have to. Oh, thanks. Yes, the white, Andrew, really is fantastic because it erases very well. And that's how Drew actually designed it for his technique. But it works wonders for my technique as well, so that's really cool. So right now you can see we're getting ready for the white mixture or the light mixture already. And that's what we're going to do. Very complicated here in her lips and her teeth, and we're going to probably do that next week. But I want to show you guys something. What I like to do when I'm working is I like to have a regular painting. And Steve, do you ever do this? Have a regular painting and then have a test painting. So this is my test painting, and you can see how I was like wondering how the heck am I going to do these lips, right? And so you can see I already did some tests on them to make sure that I have a game plan, You don't want to experiment first time with something as complicated as lips, right? You don't want to do that on your regular work. So you want to test it out, Yes, Andrew, it's very important because the pencil is so much better than if you were, the pencil is so much better than trying to draw with the airbrush. There are times when drawing with the airbrush is very cool, but like I said, I like to have the squirrel do what squirrels do rather than make them go swimming, So I use whatever tool I feel is best for the job. Let's go back here. Go back here. Look at that. There we go. Okay, cool. So yes, always look for corrections, but realize another thing which is really important. The drawing has to be pretty much what you live with. You don't want to make any drastic decisions at this point, so the drawing has to be on point, has to be right there. But we want to look for those little drawing corrections as we go. White paint is a son of a gun through an airbrush, am I right? So what I always do is I always make sure when I have white in my airbrush, don't even leave it there, not even for an hour. I go ahead and white is a little more powerful than my inks, Oh wow, Mike, that's something. That's a whole different game there. And so what I'm going to do is we are going to first put some water in here, trying to dissipate that white, and just like that, and just try and get that white out of there as soon as possible. You know what I mean, guys? And so you see it's still not out of there. I'm just going to take a little tiny bit of my 4012 and I'm just going to run it through there. And I'm going to run it through there. I'm not taking out the needle just yet. I'm going to run it through there. I'm going to put a Q-tip, do this away from my painting, and I'm just going to try and get rid of a lot of the white paint that might still be in there. Like I said, leave this in your airbrush for an hour and you will know what the heck happened, you know? So uh, you got to be very, very careful. And there we go. And now I'm going to empty that out. So it's good. This is how I'm going to take Salma and put her aside because we don't want to get paint on Salma. And there we go. So now I have this. It looks pretty good. I'm going to take out the needle because you know that needle is going to have some white on it. And what I like doing, let's see if I can go to this scene here. Let's see. Go to scene 2. And let's get rid of this and this. Okay, there we go. So now you can see I have my needle here. And I'm just going to go ahead and dunk it in my water. And this really does wonders. Nothing more. But what I like to do too is, I don't have many fingernails, but what you want to do is you want to just take your fingernails and just try and get rid of any paint that might be dried up on there. And believe me, there is paint dried up on there. We're going to take our needle, put it aside, and then we are just going to go ahead and run some more water through there. Okay. And make sure we don't put water on our keyboard. That's bad. We're going to spray out that white again and that water. Really make sure. And then what I would do is I'll take this off here. And see that little area right there? And I'll just switch cameras real fast. See that little area right there? And I'm going to focus for you. This is why DSLRs are better than webcams. See that? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a clean Q-tip and I'm just going to go in there very gently and get that paint out. Like I said, you know, that little bit of paint, one day I'm having a good day and oh, let me go ahead and work on my Vega 1000 and have a good time, and all of a sudden spitting and all kinds of things, and then I'm going to be like, oh my God, the live stream I did with the white paint, that's what it was. And your Q-tips you want to get Q-tips that don't have a lot of fibers. And you can find them, usually they're the cheapest Q-tips you can buy. And there you go, so I got that done. And I can go ahead and put this back. Excuse me. And we are done. So now I can have peace of mind that not a spray of white. Go back here. So you see here, I'm just going to spray that out. There we go, the needle's back in, everything's good. And also remember the cap. The cap is always important. I always throw that in water and then I make sure I clean it all around. Because if that's not done, you see that cap is not cleaned all the way around, little pieces of paint maybe could come out in your cup, or you know, maybe water, or maybe you have reducer in there will activate what's in there. So this is a good way to circumvent a lot of problems. You know, prevention goes a long way. So now I can feel very happy that my Vega 1000 is in good shape, and I could just go ahead and put her right there. Okay, so I'm going to get my Extreme Patriot Arrow, and let's go over here. Now, since my Extreme Patriot Arrow has a pack valve and also has a MAC valve, I don't need to have anything else here. So I have the MAC valve and the pack valve. I don't need that other hose, which has the MAC valve. So guys, you badger guys, have you ever pressed down and forgot this on there and then it shoots across the room like a bullet? Has that happened to you? That happened to me. That was unbelievable, you know? Yes, it definitely could. Exactly. That's a good point, Andrew. That's for sure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my light mixture, and let me show you how the new design will work in the future. And you just basically, you don't need an eyedropper. Just comes out really nice. And so I really like it. It's much easier to ship, much lighter, less chance of anything breaking, although I haven't had any breaks yet. But still, glass is kind of scary, so that's the reasoning why we went there, you know? So, all right, so let's go ahead and test our... So we want to make sure we're getting, let me just change so you guys can see. Okay, there we are. And I just want to show you guys what I mean, that when we test, we want to make sure that this is working perfectly. You do the fine lines, you do your dots. We want to make sure that this airbrush, your fading lines, now this is a very diluted ink, and it's very important to make sure. Oh, the switch, you got model Q-tips. Oh, and they're much better. Very cool. Oh, the oh, but yes, well, they're still in the design phase. We're doing the plastic over in the UK shipments, but as far as the glass are good. Oh, people that build models, very cool. Very cool. Okay. So you see right now we're doing good. The airbrush is working fine. Let's zoom out and we'll get Salma over here. Okay, Salma, where are you? Now there's some wet on this paper, so I'm going to take this paper and get it out of there. I'm going to bring Salma back. There she is. Beautiful lady. And I'm going to take our water over here. Okay, so looks like we are doing pretty good. Starting to cook with gas. Zoom in. Let's lighten this up. Okay. Now everybody knows where I usually start are the eyes. The eyes are the focus of a portrait 99.99% of the time. So that's where I like to start, you know. So right now what we're going to do is we're just going to go in, and since it's tight detail, I'm going to get my glasses. So we are starting with the light mixture, guys. My cap is nice and tight, very important. So what I like to use is a program called PureRef. You can go on pureref.com, I believe. And it's a program where no matter what you're doing on the computer, your reference photo will stay above the surface. On top, I should say. So you know you're touching other programs. It's not all going to always go in the back. It's going to stay front and center, and that's really important. So right now we are doing what is called the 1 second rule. 1 second rule is not important. It's the most important thing of art. of painting. Painting, representationally. You want to look at your model, your reference for 1 second, and then paint for 1 second, and don't vary from that. That is everything, if you ask me. It keeps you from going off in a wicked tangent, and this way you'll keep your mind in the game. And notice how light the drawing is, because the drawing is just going to disappear. I don't really have to erase as much. What do you use as a light source? True sunlight bulb? Let me show you. This is an interesting, class number 1, or, the episode 1 is always, pretty much going over the basics. So let's see here. Okay, so I have my camera. I took off the stand. So here is my art, and of course here is my monitors, right? So we're looking at what's going on in YouTube, and we're looking at my reference, and then another computer monitor, so I can see how it looks as I'm painting. As far as the light source, I have a regular desk lamp over here, and that's with a natural bulb with a cool filter on it. I have 2 studio lights. So you see right here is a studio light. I have it facing up off the ceiling, bouncing down on my artwork. And on this side, I have a second studio light, but that's directly where I am, not so much on the artwork. But if you notice here, I have a hard time, casting a harsh shadow, because I have light coming from pretty much 3 directions. And these are, wow, Letitia got me these, oh my God, a long time ago, and they're still alive. I'm still keeping them alive. How crazy is that? So here is my Yeti. My Yeti microphone, which really has good sound quality, and that's it. And the rest is classified information. So let's go ahead and put that in. There we go. Go back. So guys, you asked for it. Okay, that's all I have to say. All right. So, all right. So we're back. I'm not sure what the conversation's going on. I'm sure you guys are having fun. But if I miss any questions, go ahead and ask the question again, okay? Yes, live plants, right, Wendy? That's for sure. Andrew says, it's cool how the airbrush on the flat surface. Yeah, it's funny, I never did that. But I started when I was teaching, doing the live streams with the overhead. And that's my way of doing it now. Now I enjoy it more than anything now, Andrew. So go figure, right? Now, I know that that Steve Leahy actually paints a little bit on a slant. Is that correct? Is it like a 45-degree angle, if I'm not mistaken? Okay, back to painting. So let's continue with her eye here. It's so light, and it's like sketching with a 2H pencil. So that's really the thinking behind this technique. It really is basically you're just sketching at this point. When you're sketching in a sketch pad, yes, behind the scenes, Steve. When you're sketching with a sketch pad, you're not going to take out a really dark marker, right? You want to start light. Especially if you're doing something that's complex, unless you're Raphael Sanzio and you come back from the dead, we're gonna have a hard time uh, painting, doing a drawing with a marker first time. So that's why, you know, we use a pencil when we start. So you see right now, I'm just going to start some of those eyelashes a little bit. Now you want to have your air really low. It's so important because if not, you're going to get some wicked spidering. And I say that for the Boston people out there, like Steve Leahy, right? Wicked. Oh, the old school drafting table. This is an old school drafting table as well, but I have it flat. And I know yours is tilted. And Andrew says he has his bonsai growing under a lamp. That's pretty cool. No, that's really neat. I love bonsai. Those are amazing. Oh no, the camera's never going in the bathroom there, Mike. That's for sure. So now I'm going to move on over to her other eye. I like working them both together just so they're on the same page, you know? So what I do on one side, I always try and reciprocate on the other side. Now there's never symmetry, right? We're not looking for symmetry, but we're looking for balance. So remember, in anything, balance is important. In martial arts, balance is important. And in painting, balance is important. Okay, so what do I mean that balance is important? You need hard edges and you need a balance of soft edges. Without hard and soft edges in that balance, it will be, yes, wicked spidering. So you want balance of light and dark. You want balance of hard and soft edges. You want balance of composition, of negative space and positive space. So all those things are very important, and that's another thing that we have to keep in mind when we plan out a painting, but also as we work on a painting. We constantly have to ask ourselves, you know, is there an imbalance? Is there something we can do to make it more in balance? And the decisions that I think you would make more in the middle game and the end game are more of your edges, right? Hard and soft edges, where to incorporate them and that sort of thing. And right now we are just going to continue. We're not making like bold decisions right now. We're making very soft decisions, and you guys are funny. And so we're making, you know, rather relaxed decisions, but we're going towards a finish. So with the 1 second rule, even though we're sketching and being very on a looser side of the spectrum, we're still not painting without looking the same amount of time that we are working. So always do that 1 second rule. It's going to come back and really pay dividends if you do that throughout the whole process. Back to the other eye. See, I worked on the eyebrow, and let's go ahead and work on this eyebrow. And the 1 second rule is going to apply. Now this is like the early going. It looks like nothing really is happening, but this is where the rubber is meeting the road, so to speak. The light mixture keeps you from going too dark. That's really important, because one of the things I see too many people out there who ask me advice is that, you know, what's happening, I already begun, I haven't put too much detail, and everything's already, you know, everything's dark, it seems like I don't have anywhere to go, is because you have to be very deliberate and calculating. And the white actually gives you more time to really discover the nuances and the subtleties and the detail. You're not going to discover that now. So that's why you don't look for, you definitely don't want to think about, I need it to look like Salma. No. There's too much going on for you to think about that. It's not going to look like her for a long time because the subtleties, along with the large structural lights and darks and the anatomy underneath, the subtleties is what's going to bring it all together. So don't worry about making it look like her. Now with the light, with my ink mixtures, you're going to have a lot less tip dry. You're going to have a lot less clogging. Doesn't mean you're not going to have it. So you almost want to be an airbrush whisperer. If you feel something is just acting weird, just check your needle, give it a quick shot, and everything should be fine. If it's even more intense, then check your chucking nut and your needle guide. Make sure the spring is all the way tight, not too tight, not too loose. That's very important. Exactly, Andrew. That light mixture is very forgiving. You don't want to make huge, crazy decisions in the beginning, right? This is just getting acclimated to your model, getting reacclimated for the day to your airbrush, making sure that your airbrush is in tune, and if it's not in tune, go ahead and make it in tune, right? So it's like a dance, so to speak, you know, it really is. Exactly. Once you get to that black, it's almost like that's it. You've gone as far as you can go. So unless you hit everything perfectly, you're going to be paying the price, you know, and you will be painting yourself in the corner that you can't get out. And I used to do that all the time. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to be about 3 inches. And I'm just going to very subtly start her. I can take my glasses off for this because it's larger detail. That really tight detail, that's a killer. So right now, I'm actually going to turn the form of her face on this side from the light and turn it towards the dark. So I'm just going to turn this way into the dark. So right now it starts turning right here, her cheek, and what's causing that is her zygomatic arch. So it turns just like this, and it turns down like this plane here. It goes this way and this way, right? So we definitely have to pay attention to that. See that? So we're getting that turn, not only from left to right, but also from up top to bottom. And one of the persons who really made a good point on that was Steve Driscoll in his video, How to Paint a Portrait. That was one of my first portrait videos in Airbrush many years ago. And he was so cool explaining, in particular with the eye, that it turns this way and that way towards the light and away from the light. So it's not just one direction we worry about both directions. So right now I'm turning the light on her cheek here. Now as it gets the light starts to dissipate, or the shadow starts to break up, I'm going to increase the distance of my airbrush, and you see I could get a very subtle blends or gradation here. So now I'm looking at that turn, right, where it's turning. So I'm going to look for a second, and I'm going to paint for a second. I'm not worried so much about freehand shields or anything like that. It's so dark on this side that any overspray is not going to affect it in the future. Now if I was painting the hair, with all this face and then all the light, then yeah, freehand shields would definitely be the call of the day here. So you see how I'm just turning that just ever so slightly. I don't want to get too fixated, but you see how it gets darker right here. I would say just below the nostril, if you drew a line this way, just below the actual nose. We're going to get much darker, but this is how we sketch. Just like that. And yeah, you know, you feel Salma already a little bit, which is really good. Oh man, you left the dry paint in your airbrushes. Oh man, that is rough, but forgive yourself there, Mike. We all do it, right? Oh, this is just so fantastic. This airbrush, you know, with my modifications, Andrew, is just incredible. The amount of detail that I can get with this really is second to none. I mean, the only thing that comes, to me, that comes close to it is the custom micron. And I mean the CMSB, not the others. So I really stand behind it, because one of the things I like about this setup is I put my PSI at 25 PSI at the at the compressor. I have the pack valve to get it exactly where I want, and the MAC valve, and then the pack valve to actually get it exactly dialed in. So I can be really, with this, you can get a ballpark of where you want, but with this and this, you can get exactly where you want, which is really fantastic. And the fact that the needle comes out much further than the nozzle gives it much more detail that, you know, you're just going to be totally amazed at, you know, the amount of detail that you can do. Okay, so let's go ahead and work on her nostril there. And so what I'm going to do is show you the amount of detail that we can get. 1 second rule is in effect, right? So I was looking at this large photo today. I was window shopping, and in the window was this picture of a woman, and it was huge, like her nostril was like this big. But what I did see while doing that is that it's so dark in the center where the hole of the nostril is, and then everywhere else it just sort of dissipates into light. So that was interesting. So what I've seen, so you see right there, perpendicular and not parallel. And we can see that the light actually, the dark actually comes out to this edge, and then on this edge, it really dissipates and gets much lighter. And as we get darker with the dark mixture, you see we're going to even do that even more, you know? Yeah, this thing actually is dialed in, definitely, Andrew. Some days it's not easy to dial in, of course, but I still get it dialed in. It's like some days, like people, you know? Some days we're temperamental. I feel that way with the airbrush sometimes. Like yesterday, it took me a while, like maybe a half hour to get it dialed in, you know? But definitely. So yeah, you'll really enjoy it if you ever get this airbrush. I highly recommend it. And let's see. Oh, Mike S says didn't come with the Allen wrench for one rest with the side oneer, so it hangs 1/8 of an inch below the main body. Now, what hangs below the body there? Is it this thing or this finger rest? I'm curious there, Mike. Now, this particular nostril over here is much darker, right? And we can always make sure we don't miss aim a little bit or any overspray. Same thing here, it's a little fuzzier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to very lightly, and the light mixture, look how you could sketch. With the 1 second rule, I'm keeping myself from going too dark or even getting sidetracked. I'm painting only what I see for that front 1 second and then immediately paint that 1 second, you know? Andrew's got the Extreme Patriot among others, but when I got it, it was like, wow, this cap is beyond Loctite. Now you're talking about this cap right here. That does happen sometime, yes. And so Mike says the body is missing a chunk from the back side. Really, back here? That's very interesting. I know if you contact Badger, they'll take care of you. Does it affect the performance? Any idea if Badger's working on anything new? They are, right now, everything is pretty much on hold due to COVID-19. There are some really cool products down the line, and that's exciting, but I was talking with Ken, and they're just playing catch-up right now. Short-handed due to the COVID-19 and everything. Ken was saying he was working like 16-hour days just to take care of those orders, you know. Good question, Willie. So Andrew says he got in a leather glove and channel locks to loosen. Okay, oh cool, yes, that's pretty cool. And this way you don't damage it, right? That's important. Mike S. says the Extreme Patriot is probably one of the best airbrushes he's used at this point. But then again, he's not had any big buck airbrushes. I will go head to head against any big buck airbrush guy and just, you know, show that this thing, this Extreme Patriot Arrow, is will give it a run for its money. Now it's a detail airbrush. It's not, you know, great for backgrounds or anything like that. You're not going to get wonderful atomization, but as we've seen earlier with the Vega, we had wonderful atomization, and we were able. So you see how I went ahead and used my freehand shield to sort of define the nostril with the adjacent color on the other side. So that's important. A lot of times your values or your shapes are going to be defined by what's next to it, not necessarily the shape itself. Does that make sense? So it's not so much the nostrils that reveal what the shape of the nostrils is, but the shape around it, which really helps define it. So like I did over here, I am, you know, we are not only painting the values, but we're making that nose turn, right? And it's darker over here, getting a cast shadow from that hair, right? And it's coming up like that. And then, so once we have the cast shadow, then it looks like there's a little bit of form shadow, I believe. And let's go ahead and make sure we slowly. Now I'm going to increase my distance because I want to decrease the amount of ink going onto the surface. And then I'll deepen the values as I go throughout the painting. But same thing here. We do have the white of the paper underneath, and so we can go ahead and maybe erase some of that white and bring up some of that paper color underneath, which will work, you know. So Andrew says when he screwed it on finger tight, the channel and used the channel lock onto it, and let's see. Okay. Well, thank you, Andrew. I appreciate that. And let's see. Andrew says now, let me see. Andrew says, but when he screwed it on finger tight, he had the channel locks on it too, and he thinks the threads are just so close. Okay. and that together it binds. Yes, that could be it. And yes, I really believe in this airbrush, and I really back it up, Andrew, because I really feel it's one of the best out there right now. And Steve says he agrees. First thing he did with the Extreme was to swap out the high roller trigger for the yes, exactly. So yeah, that's the first thing that has to go, is that high roller trigger, right? Uh, okay, so as you see, I went ahead and I'm turning that nose, not getting too crazy. And where we were is we were using my mono eraser round 0, and we're just going to start to pull up the erase the white, and we could use the paper underneath to get some real subtle lights without even going with the airbrush yet. So you see, we can get real super subtle, and that's very important. You know, if you can start having the form turn before you actually go in with the white pastel, not white pastel, but the light mixture of the inks, you're already ahead of the game. So I'm just going to erase some of the white, and just sort of, again, sketching even more subtly than I would with the light mixture by erasing the white. And while I'm going, I could get rid of some of those pencil lines that might look a little crude, and that's much better, you know. So the 100, that 100 side feed was amazing. I really liked it, Mike, you know. Yeah, I believe that high roller trigger, you know, it's a good idea for those who, you know, enjoy it, but it kind of, for me, it got in the way. I really did. Subtlety, and get rid of some of those pencil lines as we're going, and we can actually start getting rid of some of these pencil lines very subtly. See that in the nostril, the mouth. That's going to be fun. But before we do that, we are going to reiterate some of these shapes here. Now remember, the nostril on this side was defined by the adjacent shape that's much darker, you know. And yeah, so it's much darker. So when we put the freehand shield covering the nostril and painted the cheek, then the shape of the nostril appeared. It's funny, on this side it's the opposite. So what we're going to do is we're going to cover the cheek, and we're going to paint in the nostril to define its shape. See, so it's that sort of making sure that you are, how do I say, making sure that you have your head in the game, and you're figuring out what's the best way that I could solve this particular problem, or, you know, what's the best way that I could show her nostril, or her leg, or anything else. And usually the best way is really figuring out whether it's the shape itself or the adjacent shape, which is defining it, right? And Steve says it's definitely a personal choice for the high roller. He just couldn't get comfortable with it. Yeah, for me it just it was rough, you know. It was really rough. I didn't have a good time with it at all, you know. I like that Badger does think outside the box, definitely. And how interchangeable Badgers are, which is so fantastic, you know. And so, yeah, and a lot of times when I was using it, I pulled back too much, and had blowouts, and at this point in my career, did not want to get used to a trigger. It's really important. So, yeah, when you are painting 6 hours a day, and accuracy is so important, and the trigger doesn't really do anything for you, then why expel the time and the energy and the damaged artwork on something like that? So that trigger went. But at first, this airbrush, I wasn't very crazy about it at the very first time. And but once I got rid of that trigger, and I just went ahead and did it. No one told me about it, and it was like the lights opened up and the sea. It was just amazing. I never really went back. I was using, if you guys remember, I was using the Sotar 2020 Slim a lot. But once I got this airbrush, the 2020 Slim is a fantastic airbrush, but this is just so good. It's just so good. That's all I have to say. Yeah, exactly, Bill. So I would not want to go ahead and make all those adjustments. It wasn't really. It wasn't effective, and if it gets in the way of workflow, hey, that rhymes. If it gets in the way of workflow, it's got to go, right? Am I right, guys? Let's see. Yeah, when it went ahead and destroyed a painting that I was working on that was already sold, yeah, that's when I had enough. Just ever so slowly, we're building it up, Just ever so slowly building things up. Now, we want to realize as we're working that, with the 1 second rule, is you want to see where the shapes are, right? There's some light shapes and dark shapes, and you want to make sure you make them happen. We're going to come back in with white pastel. We're actually thinking about the white pastel. Even though we're 6 to 8 hours away from the white pastel, we're moving towards it. That's important, And honestly, I don't feel that, that's a good point, but, I don't feel that I could actually get any smaller adjustments than this right now, See, the thing is, I'm always a small, I always work small. Why do I work small? Because my favorite painters are Johannes Vermeer, a lot of the Dutch painters who work very small portraits, and so I'm not like a monumental painter. And because I grew up in the city in Manhattan, not in Manhattan, and went to school in Manhattan. I grew up in Queens. So with that being said, we never had a lot of room, and I painted out in the dining room when I was a kid. So even now, I don't have a lot of room. I have more room than I ever had in my life, but I always worked smaller because it was manageable. Not as small as Steve. Steve's amazing. Working in the scale he's doing, but I'm always in the scale right now from 8.5 by 11 up to 16 by 20 is probably the largest I've been going lately, but it doesn't mean that I'm not going to go larger. Yeah, the smaller portraits are amazing, Yeah, no, check out Steve's live streams because you can see, the scale that he's doing is just incredible. If you look also at the paintings at the Metropolitan Museum of Art of Johannes Vermeer, 17th century Dutch painter, just amazing. His heads are like that big in some of his paintings. And the way that he paints the light is just so incredible. And I get a feeling of the with with Steve Leahy that there's a real influence with the Dutch masters. And let's bring this dark over here. Subtlety is important, so important. I agree, Andrew. The smaller portraits are just. This is not my sweet spot. My sweet spot's about this big. When I do my large, sometimes 2 feet by 3 feet or 24 by 36 inches, that's usually the size of the head that's, my sweet spot. I like to do, when I'm working 24 by 36, I like to get the full body in there. So that's why that head size is my sweet spot. He is definitely, without a doubt. So definitely check out his work. Just incredible. I actually purchased one of his prints, and Steve gave me one of his prints for free, which was really great, and I thank him for that. So yeah, Steve is just amazing. There we go. So Vermeer, it definitely is evident that Vermeer is your favorite. Uh, the fact that, he only did a handful of paintings in relation to many artists is just incredible. Just very interesting that just now people are learning about his life. He had so many children, and he was a Catholic in a Protestant society at the time. So just very interesting. You can see some of his early works have very Catholic themes to them. Very interesting. And also the fact that he had all those children, he probably had to do other things to make money. And that's probably why he had such a low output, I should say. Okay, so here's a spot where we can use a freehand shield, and we're going to crawl along the surface, meaning we're going to move the freehand shield as we paint. So remember, perpendicular and not parallel. I cannot stress that enough. And you see we get that really nice. Wipe off your freehand shield between, because if you don't, you're just going to move wet paint that collects on the edge of the freehand shield. And you see we're just going to move along the surface here, and we're going to create that hard edge. Just like that. And there we go. So you see how we're creating that hard edge? And you know what? When you establish that hard edge, even when you go darker, it's going to be almost impossible to get rid of that edge. Meaning that it's important, and it really will pay a lot of dividends using that freehand shield at this point in time. Okay, no time like the present. Let's go ahead and let's work on her mouth. And that's a very difficult part of this painting. And we're just going to go for it, okay? So let's make this happen. Glasses time, that's for sure. So let's go ahead. The fact that I painted this last night is going to pay big dividends in actually having a direction. Now you don't want to continue in the same spot, so you just want to let it go, and you don't want any spidering. you want to realize that, you have teeth, but they're turning, right? They're turning inside her mouth. So you're not just painting teeth, you're not just recreating values. That's only half the game. You want to do the 1 second rule, you want to look at values, you want to look at the turning and how it's going towards the light and away from the light, and that's what's going to give you a profound representation of the visual world, and in particular, what's happening when Salma was posing for this photo. And we can always erase as we go, but another key thing is to make sure that when we do paint, that we make sure that it's dry before we erase. Okay, so let's go on over to the other side of the corner of her mouth. First, you want to go and get the low-hanging fruit. So get the easy parts first, and then the harder parts will fall. Now, that means one of two things. Easy part is, okay, let's zoom in for you, my friend, definitely. Okay, so there you go. It's not going to translate when you zoom in, but so you want to get the large shapes and then go in with the smaller shapes. That's so crucial. Now, with the teeth, it's very, very light. I mean, extremely light. So you don't want them to look like picket fences. So you want to be very subtle and have the values of the darks very light to the values of the light, So that's going to be key in doing stuff like this. And then right here, and then I'll come in with the eraser and then with the white pastel. So we're always setting up for what's coming at the end, right? So we're always planning for that. So right there is a imperfection of the paper, but that's something we can get rid of with the white pastel, so that's no problem. And let's go ahead softly with the kneaded eraser and erase that, okay? Exactly, Steve. The light mixture is a game changer. And I'm just going to lighten this up, get a little more forceful in the kneaded eraser. But notice I waited till it was dry before I went ahead and did that, okay? And we're just going to create some dimension in this lip here as it rolls down. But this is very minor decisions right now. And the 1 second rule will keep your head in the game, so to speak. And now we come back in, let it dry, you know. And then we're just going to very lightly get rid of those pencil lines, because those pencil lines are just training wheels. And then, you know, after the training wheels are done, then we could go back in with the ink. One second rule, guys. Okay, always. Make sure you don't have any tip dry. Make sure you got good flow. Then we erase as we go. Now I cheated, I did this last night, so I am actually doing it for the second time. There we go. And, you know, when we paint over the pencil lines, it's going to be darker than we want. So we have to erase it and then go back in and get the value, or, you know, get rid of the pencil lines from affecting the value. Again, get rid of some of those pencil lines. Put some air on it. Dry it up a little bit. That's okay. And then you see when we get rid of the pencil, the light mixture lightens up. There we go. And then we could do better. Like I said, I'm not going to get too detailed here. It's just beginning, you know, just beginning those shapes. And we're going to get rid of pencil lines as we go. So like I said, no matter how you put your image onto your surface, it's important that you're able to make changes on the fly. Not huge changes, little changes. And let's darken this up over here. Now I'm just in the light mixture. Everything looks dark, but it's super light anyway. And so what you're going to see when we pull out, that it's going to look really good. And let's pull out right now, as you see. See how nice her lips and her teeth are already looking, and we could get rid of the pencil lines to settle that up a little bit. We're going to go back darker. But yeah, that's exactly what you want. You definitely want to be able to get in with that detail, and that's where the extreme Patriot Arrow with my modifications comes through, and using the India inks with the light mixture. Those two things are going to allow you to get there. When my students go ahead and they use this airbrush with the inks, they're able to get it, you know? That's really important. So John says, when I sketch out my drawings, do I use pencil lead? I always use F, but I have other methods. I use different methods to get my artwork onto the surface. So I do include pencil, yes, definitely. I include some digital artwork that I use, as well as projectors and everything to my disposal. I use it to, help my painting in the long run. Now the exact thing that I do, you would have to be a student of mine to learn that. I don't give that total information out, but I assure you it's not cheating, which some people have said. At this point, I don't have to cheat. I went to 8 years of art school, and I'm not going to even tell it. I'm not even going to mention how long I've been out of art school, so that's going to make me feel old. So, but yeah, definitely, uh, you know, it's all about, speed, and but still having your hand involved. Not using filters or anything like that onto your artwork. I'm not talking about filters, but using different methods, using your hand, whether it be with digital art or with projectors to get it on there. So, okay, so I'm feeling okay with the lips. I don't want to get too fixated, but I still want to have it clean, right? And so I want those lips to start to turn, so I'm just going to have them turn into her mouth where her teeth are. And then onto here, we're going to have that shadow. We're going to we're not just gonna go ahead and tape lips onto her face, That's important. So what we're going to do is we're going to mold those lips onto that three-dimensional surface there. Lips are a form on top of a larger form, and that really helps. Who's 3 years out of art school? Bill, you're 3 years out of art school? Put another 0 on that there, Bill. Oh my God, yeah, I wish I was 3 years out of art school. Art school was so much fun. People ask me, do I have an art education? And I said, do you have time? Of where I went, and I don't want to come off like I'm very blessed to have that opportunity. My parents, where I lived, I was lucky to live in the New York City area, and I'm thankful for every week I had there. So right now you see she's starting to turn. She's starting to look like Salma a little bit, and that's okay, but that's not my goal. But yeah, I think we're starting to, look at that, it's 11:10. You believe I haven't lifted my head since then? I didn't know what time it was, so it's already 11:10. And so we had a lot of people on tonight. So I finished my tea. Anyone asks any questions, please re-ask them. And if I missed them, I was doing those teeth, so that was pretty in depth there. I definitely had to concentrate at that point. Let's see. See if I missed any questiones, preguntas. Let's see. John says, Tim, when you sketch out your drawing, I do use the F. I love the F. You know why I love the F? Because it's a little harder than the HB. I find the HB is a little too soft, but the F is perfect. And I think F grade is usually more for drafters, aren't they? Like drafting people. But I've been using F for about 20 years now, and I just love it. I'm going to reiterate the dark underneath her eyelid there. So right now we're still with the light mixture, but we're getting ready for that medium mixture. But remember, the medium mixture is not going to make its first appearance until around week 3 or late in week 2. right? So we're looking between 4 and 6 hours. 15, not bad. Oh, so you've been doing the F, right? So good, John. So very good. Let's use our freehand shields. Always great. And we're gonna just, like I said, anyone ask any questions if I missed it? I got really involved. So 1 second rule, guys. So basically, I'm gonna. I want to write an airbrush book. A lot of people have been asking me to write one. I wrote a pastel book, and so now I'm gonna write an airbrush book, and so that's gonna be fun. Just my own take on it, my own little sets of rules, Timisms and stuff like that. There's a really nice dark underneath her hair here. I don't need a freehand shield because the dark of the hair, we don't care about overspray or anything. Don't want to get too wet. See, the thing is, if you get too wet, what could happen is that you would stain the paper. So let the ink catch up to the surface before you put more ink on it, okay? And John says you will be posting his latest picture on Facebook. I can't wait. Depending on when that's fantastic. I love to hear that. And yes, so Wendy agrees about the F. Mike says, how do you make a choice for who I will paint for the live streams? Any special list of things? No, I just pretty much go with 2 factors. Someone I feel like painting, and number 2, if I have a very good photograph. So usually having a good photograph is probably the most important. Why do I do celebrities in live streams? For the most part, because it's important that when people are doing searches for airbrush art, a lot of times I'll also get people who are searching for celebrities, and that helps to get more traffic to my videos, and hopefully more people will subscribe. So guys, anyone out there, if you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and subscribe. I'm at 3,000, so we hit 3,000 about a month ago, which is really fantastic. And we just keep growing, and we keep having really fantastic people on board, and using the inks, which is really fantastic. So Andrew said that picture with the girl's hand out of focus was awesome. Which one was that, my friend? I've been starting to do that more, manipulating in digital the photograph, and then once I manipulate it, I change the edges, make it more soft edged and hard edged. So that's pretty cool. So now, Andrew, is that a picture that I did with the hand? Because I don't recall. I've done so many. Oh, is this the one? I think that might be the one, sir. I'm not sure. And then this is one I did with the hand. I try to manipulate the edges because a lot of times a photograph just comes out so flat, and we could change the images using all kinds of masking, a transparency mask, and we could change the Gaussian blur and do a lot of things, Andrew, which is really great. So I can't believe we're getting close to the end of this live stream. I really enjoyed the that painting. So when I do my own stuff, I don't care as much as you know. I care more about expression than technique. Technique is still important, but when I do my own stuff, it's more about, you know, getting that emotion, whatever that emotion I'm trying to capture. A lot of times, I'll find emotion in the photograph, and then that's what I want to do. Or maybe I'm feeling an emotion, and oh, the blonde girl, yeah, that was fun to do. And I rarely paint blondes. It's funny, but I saw that picture and I just loved it. And that was uh, a real technical piece. I really enjoyed that one. Thank you so much for mentioning it. Oh, the second one. Oh yeah, the one of Gene Tierney. Yeah, that was a good one. Thank you, John. It was good that I enjoyed the live stream with you guys with that. So so here we are right now, and you can see that you know, everything looks a little blotchy right now, but that's the early stages. So this was the one that I did last night just to get acclimated, and you can see how we are, you know, working things out in this one. But this one really helped this one, like really important. So that's what you want to do. You want to make sure that uh, you definitely want to make sure that you don't go in right away. Always have a practice piece. So this way, let's say you're doing something, you're not sure how to do it. You don't want to go ahead and attack it on your regular piece for the first time. It's it's like a disaster, right? So you don't want to do that. So you want to do your experimenting, or, you know, finding a way to do it on a practice piece. So if you mess up, okay, you get another practice piece. But something like this is the one you really want to build upon. That's so important. Oh man, so Chris, have a great night. It's always great to see you, sir. And thank you so much for coming by. It's always an honor, my friend. And okay, so let's go into her eye again, and let's see if we can put some more detail here. Now we're still with the light mixture, and we're building up with that light mixture, okay? The light mixture and the extreme patriot arrow. Marriage made in heaven. Okay, so I'm taking my reference, and what we're going to do, we don't want to get too dark, but we just want to build it up. You're working with transparencies. When you're working with transparency, you're able to build up one layer upon another to get dark. So the question is, Tim, why don't you just continue with the light mixture and just build up to get dark? Because we're working on paper. And the fact that we're working on paper, if you keep building up, you're going to eventually damage the paper. And I like to look at it like economy of the paper, right? You don't want to, you don't want to keep pushing the paper where it gets damaged. So that's why you go to a certain point with the light mixture, then you come in with the medium mixture to a certain point, and then you let the heavy lifting of the darks to the dark mixture. So it really is very cool, you know. And thank you, Wendy. I appreciate that. And so you see right now, I'm just going to sculpt this eye. Now the eye really isn't being affected. The iris is not being affected by form because there's a light within the eye, you know, in the iris and all that. So it's really not a true form. But right now with the eye, what you want to do is really pay attention to what's happening. 1 second rule is crucial, because you don't have the rules of light and dark, the rules of anatomy here too much to really pay attention to. But look at the amount of detail that the Extreme Patriot arrow can get. Do not stay in the same area, okay? Make sure you keep moving, because if you stay in the same area, I guarantee it's going to spider. Guaranteed. That's just physics. That has nothing to do with the airbrush itself. The more ink that you put onto the paper, the more that the paper cannot soak anymore, it gets oversaturated. The ink sits on the surface, and then when you go ahead and apply more air, it's going to shoot that ink across the paper, hence spidering. So if we think of the physics of what's happening, then it's not this mysterious thing. So then you're like, okay, so if I think about that, then I make sure I don't put too much on there. So right here, look at this detail. I'm actually going to do the dark on the ridge of her eyelid there. I wanna eat your heart out. There we go. So, and like Andrew said, it's about having your airbrush dialed in, having the right airbrush, and a lot of practice. You see, I can get incredible eyelashes. Now, this looks like no big deal, it's blowing up, but wait till I come out, and then you will see. You know who I learned how to do airbrushes from? Jonathan Pantaleone. Airbrushes were a pain in the neck. They were really unbelievable. Just really difficult, you know? Mike says you need to do a 3-image artwork with Betty Davis, Gene Tierney. Oh yeah, that would be cool. Definitely, Mike. I love Gene Tierney. Betty Davis was amazing. So when I studied with, I took 2 workshops with Jonathan Pantaleone, and he has one of the best controls out there. You know, he works with the Eclipse. And so this is what now he didn't say, I watched him, so he'll do a dot, and then he'll do a dagger. So a dot and a dagger, and that's how he does them. And so I just watched him. So when I took his classes, I took a lot of time just watching him. I didn't give a crap how my project came out. It was more about just learning. I was about a year into airbrushing when I took his classes. Thanks, Andrew. I appreciate that. Oh, I would love to see John Wick in airbrush. That would be great, Wendy. Keanu Reeves, amazing. And John Wick would be very popular. So you see, we were able to get, now it's all with the light mixture, and everything's going to look a little blotchy now, but that's where the medium mixture and the dark mixture come together. But control is, yes, knowing how to manipulate the airbrush, but also knowing your ink or your paint, and knowing the dilution and what it can do and not do, as well as the paper. All those different things are really important to, it's like dialing not only the airbrush like Andrew said, but dialing in all the factors of airbrushing, you know, distance being one of the most important of them all. I love this little corner thing here in people's eyes. I love painting that. So a little darker over here. Slowly, what you want to do is you want to slowly lift your airbrush while you're painting away from the surface, and that will do a lot. So you see, we went ahead and started that detail, and then we can go in with darker detail later, which is really cool. Let's see. So I love Procreate. Wendy's doing some incredible Neo, yes. I got to show you some of the Katharine Hepburns I've done in the past with pencil. I love Katharine Hepburn. She was amazing as well. Okay, so now we have approximately 3 minutes. So let's go ahead and... so guys, go ahead and hit the like button in the last couple of minutes. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. It helps me out, and the more subscribers, the more I can get endorsements, and the more I can get brand deals and giveaways and stuff like that. Okay, so definitely do that if you can. I would love that. So last week I think I had 65% of my viewers were non-subscribers. So you non-subscribers out there, if you can do that for me, that would be amazing. Don't forget my ink mixtures. You can purchase my ink mixtures, and you can also take classes with me, which are really fantastic. We go over everything. All the information is at www.paintedglyphs.com, and check me out, and there'll be links to an email where you can ask questions as well. Bill and Ted, yeah, that was fantastic. It was amazing. You know, I love Socrates, right? Remember Socrates? That was too good. Socrates. I still laugh every time I see, which I shouldn't, which is the painting Death of Socrates by Jean-Auguste Dominique Ingres. So my favorite artist in the world, Ingres, his birthday is next week. Take care, Bill. Good to see you. Steve, nice to see you. Thank you for hanging out with me. And John and Wendy and Raul and everybody, thank you so much, guys. Little by little, we'll get there, right? But I like the glow, and we are setting up for the next stages. So, you know, this was a lot of fun hanging out. Part 1 is always fun. So you see there in the comment section, www.paintedglyphs.com, information on everything from classes to the inks to artwork to the live streams, all that stuff. And it's 11:30. I gave you the 2 hours I always promise you. I hope you have a great night. God bless, and you guys are an important part of my week. I don't know what I would do without you. Thank you for hanging out. Wendy, thank you. John, everybody, my guests. Take care, guys. Andrew, thank you so much. First time Andrew's here, and it's great that you're here. Great questions.